It seems like you've been in a few different religiously themed films, The Prophecy being one of them, like one of the later sequels, and then obviously the Hellraiser ones, which obviously you're like the guy that basically is the runner of hell, or you're one of the guys that helps run it. Is there a reason why you chose to do films like that, or are you a certain religious persuasion, or do you just find it interesting?
This is a lot of questions. Let me begin to unpack all this.
Okay.
I would say that I think, well, first of all, I'm an atheist.
Okay.
I think all horror films are religiously themed, to the extent that I think horror films are basically about life, death, birth, rebirth, regeneration, resurrection. It's about the contradictions between the flesh and the non-flesh, etc. And that's everything religion is about. It's everything religion is about.
Right.
Look, you're talking to me. I play Pinhead. Here's 10 by 8 of Pinhead. He's a guy with nails banged in his head.
Right.
Hello, the crucifixion.
Right.
So that's my first feeling. I think very much that religion and horror speak the same language.
Right.
Except that horror is freed of the constraints that religion hangs itself up with. By believing that what they talk about is real.
Right.
I've always said that if Christianity would accept that it's a mythology, if it would accept that it's a symbolic place,
right,
and not a real place, I'd get on much better with it. If they'd accept that God is a concept and not an old man with a long white beard sitting on a cloud,
okay,
making arbitrary decisions about who's going to get cancer and who's going to die in a car crash today,
okay,
and whether this football team is going to win or that football team is going to lose. You know, you see sports people who they score a goal and they thank God for it, but you don't see them thanking God when they miss. But God must be responsible for both decisions.
Right.
If Christianity would free itself from the little cages it puts itself in, and all religions, I think we'd all have a much better time with it, you know, because we're dealing with imagination, we're dealing with ideas, symbols, metaphors, and those ideas are always about transformation,
right,
which is what horror is all about. It's a fluid place, it's a changing place. It's not a fixed and rigid place, and horror is not, should not be, saddled with morality, which is religion's other problem. It thinks it invented morality, and it didn't.
Right.
Morality has got nothing to do with Jesus Christ, nothing at all.
Right.
It's all placed on top of Christianity, mostly by St. Paul, who's responsible for inventing what most fundamentalist Christians in this country practice. They're not actually Christians, they're Paulines.
Okay.
Talk about specific movies, talk about Hellraiser. Clive Barker was very, very careful, and if you go back to the Hellraiser movies, you'll see, particularly the early movies, there is no relationship between the hell in Hellraiser and the hell of Christian mythology.
Okay.
There's no reference to Satan. There's no reference to the devil.
Right.
Ever.
It's just
Hellraiser
like a place
mythology.
that's right. I know what you're saying.
And it's more specific than that because it's constantly talked about as being a private place. I think it's in Hellbound when Kirsty is trying to get into quote-unquote hell to look for her father.
Right.
Is it Frank, I think, who says to her, oh no, I think it's Pinhead who says to her, he is in his own hell. child.
Right.
Just as you are in yours.
Right.
And that's very much the landscape and idea of hell that Clive is dealing with in Hellraiser, that it's a private place that we lock ourselves into rather than a geographical location that we go to.
So, like, for instance, I study a lot of this stuff, so just, I mean, that's why I know things, so don't freak out like I'm some kind of weirdo. Like with Hellraiser, I think it was the 5th one, the director, Scott Derrickson, who's directed, like, The Day the Earth Stood Still and those, he's pretty much a very, very vocal Christian.
Yes, and look at what, and now, and that goes right to the heart of what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I mean, I'm barely in the movie, in Inferno.
Okay. Yeah, that's the okay.
But it's the only time in any of the Hellraiser movies. In the later movies, I quite often had questions about the language that was being given to Pinhead. But Inferno was the only time where I directly challenged a tone and an attitude that Pinhead was being given. And I've often mocked it, and I've often summarized satirically that when Pinhead turns up at the end of Inferno, he basically is saying to Craig Sheffer's character, here is you've kind of divided your soul into a good thing and a bad thing,
right?
A good side and a bad side. And I say to him, this is a good thing and this is a bad thing, and the bad thing is killing the good thing, and that is a bad thing. And I tend to add satirically a kind of, and this is your Uncle Pinhead saying, until next time, children, look both ways before you cross the street and be nice to Mom and Dad. Because it seemed to me that Pinhead was being there reduced to some kind of folksy moralist.
Okay,
you know?
okay.
And it's whatever the hell else Pinhead is, he's no moralizer.
Right, okay.
He's judgmental. That's his role. He's judgmental.
Right.
But that's not to be confused with someone who wants to moralize and tell you how you should be behaving,
right,
what you should be doing.
Yeah, it seems like to me Pinhead is more in the role of, hey man, this is what you did, and now this is what I'm going to dole out to you for what you did. It's like a job for him, you know? Right.
So I was able to rewrite my speeches in Inferno, but not to fundamentally alter that kind of avuncular tone that Pinhead had suddenly adopted, which seemed to me to be so wide of the mark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you? What do you have coming up? Is there another sequel coming up? Do you know if there's another one?
Look, it's over 7 years now since my last outing as Pinhead with Mr. Lance Henriksen, whom we can see through the doorway over there.
Yep.
Hellworld was the last in the Hellraiser series. That is 7.5 years ago. I can't say definitively because I don't know, because Dimension Films don't talk to me about anything.
Right.
But my assumption is, therefore, that the series as it stands is over. And of course they're been talking about remaking the first Hellraiser movie now for 2.5 years. As far as I can tell, they're no closer to making it than they were 2.5 years ago. And I can't tell you anything definitive about that because I don't know anything definitive about it because they never talked to me about it.
Well, I can't imagine anybody else playing the part. But they say the same thing about Freddy, which I'm not comparing you to him, and look what happened with that.
Oh, yeah, I mean, obviously somebody else can play the part. I'm sure people said that about Sean Connery and James Bond.
Right.
Last time I looked at that franchise, it didn't seem to hurt it too much.
No, it didn't.
If it happens and somebody else plays Pinhead, the fans say to me, it won't be the same. And I say, no, you're absolutely right. It won't be the same. It'll be different.
Right, which is the whole idea.
And it might be worse, it might be better, it might be roughly the same, but it will be different.
Right. You know? Well, hey, I appreciate it very much, and you were very kind to share with me your personal opinions.
Hey, no problem.
Thank you very much.